Today we are going to focus on how writers can end their stories. I'm going to read an example of a personal narrative to you called Goodbye for Now, and I want you to pay close attention to how the author ends their story. Let's listen. Goodbye for now. We turned the corner onto her street, and it was like we were moving in slow motion. I had been down her street almost 1,000 times, if I had to count. I pretty much had it memorized. There were huge oak trees on each side of her front yard that we had climbed numerous times and even carved smiley faces in. There was her grassy front lawn we'd spent many days laying on, counting clouds and naming the shapes we'd see in them. It was really hard to think that I was moving away from Casey. Casey and I met in 2nd grade. We quickly realized that we loved almost all the same things, from jumping rope to rollerblading and baking. We became best friends. Last month, my dad was told he had to relocate for work, and my parents told me we were moving. This was heartbreaking for me. We pulled into Casey's driveway, and I took a deep breath. I grabbed the beaded bracelet that I had worked all night making for her. I put my hand on the handle of the door and felt my heart sink. It was time to say goodbye to my very best friend. "You can do this, sweetheart. Casey's mom and I already said that we are going to make sure you girls get together once we get settled. Just remember, this isn't goodbye. This is goodbye for now," my mom reassured me. Casey came running out of her house and down the driveway. Her arms were open and she was wearing a big smile. "Look what I made for you," she said excitedly. She held out a bracelet made with all kinds of bright-colored yarn. "Casey was up late last night making that for you," added Casey's mom. I held out the beaded bracelet I made for her, and we both giggled. "Great minds think alike, huh? I'm really going to miss you, Casey," I said as my eyes filled with tears. "Yeah, me too. Don't worry, we're going to get to see each other really soon," Casey promised. "Well, give me a hug. This isn't goodbye, it's goodbye for now," I said, repeating my mother's words. I walked down the driveway and got into my car, tears still filling my eyes. However, there was a bit of happiness in my heart because I felt confident that I would see Casey again soon. Now it was time for a new adventure. So how did the author end their story? Did she just write "the end" or "thanks for reading"? No. The ending of her story takes place at the same time and place as the rest of her story. Good writers make their endings in the moment. Let's look at some story examples and brainstorm some in-the-moment endings. When we are writing our endings, we want them to be in the moment. So we want to think about 2 things. When does your story take place? And where does your story take place? And we want our ending to be happening at the same time and place as the rest of our story. So let's look at our examples. If I have a story about falling off my bike while riding home from school, and I want to come up with a possible ending, so I need to think about when my story takes place and where my story takes place. So I'm riding home from school, and it's probably in the afternoon if I'm coming home from school. So I want to think about how this story might be ending. It's the end of the day, I'm riding my bike home, I fell off. What might go on? Share with someone in your house, or you can just say it out loud. What do you think might be happening at the end of this? If I fell off my bike, I might be hurt, and I might not want to ride my bike anymore. So maybe the story ends with me limping home and pushing my bike. Remember, this isn't the only way it might end. This is just a possible ending. So it's one way that I could end it. And this ending would be a little bit more interesting than saying something like, "and that's the story of the time I fell off my bike," because instead you're ending with the action still kind of going on. Our other example says, If we wrote a story about scoring your first goal in soccer, so this was the memory you were going to share for your personal narrative, how might you end that story? So if you've played soccer before, you've played another sport, you might think about what kind of happens after you score a goal or get a basket or a touchdown. What goes on? And remember, we want to have an ending that takes place when and where the rest of our story is taking place. I know my teammates would probably be excited. My parents might be excited while they're watching the game. Maybe we give each other high fives. So I might end with that as my ending. I'd talk all about scoring my goal and end with that excitement, kind of keep it on a high note of giving high fives to my teammates. Now that you've seen a few examples, I want you to take some time and read over your rough draft. Does your ending need to be updated to be more in the moment and interesting? Make any changes that you need to. Remember, if you don't have space for your revisions on your rough draft, you can use a sticky note or a strip of paper instead. So I'm looking at my rough draft now, and I'm going to look at the ending. So I took a photograph, then all of a sudden he lifted his head and looked right at me. I can't believe he's looking at me, I whispered to myself. I quickly snapped another picture. I'm so glad I was there when he woke up. This ending isn't bad, but it's not really in the moment. So I'm going to try to brainstorm and see if I can come up with something that I can do to make it a little more in the moment and a little more exciting. So if I think back on this time, after I took the picture, I wanted to show the other third grade teachers. So I might change my ending to say something about after I snapped the picture, I put my phone in my pocket and I rushed to the front of the zoo to tell the third grade teachers what I had just seen. I know we get tempted at the end to then add something like, now you know about the time I saw the tiger at the zoo. But when we're doing an ending that's in the moment, we have our in the moment ending and then we stop. You have to resist that temptation to add on that extra thanks for reading. Now you know about my field trip or whatever your memory is. And just leave it with that ending that lets the reader know that this memory is finished. Y'all, can you believe we are almost done? Tomorrow we are going to edit our rough drafts and then publish. And that's it. I'll see you then.